prices. But in fact, prices do not coordinate economic activity at all. What it means then, that what coordinates economic activity is class-based economic decisions made by the capitalist class and the political elite. That's what does it. It has nothing to do with markets. Gee whiz, this is another damn Marxian phrase, and with social relationships outside the market determine how the economy gets organized and run. And how even Marxists have a hard time with this phenomenon, because they like to talk about some kind of transformation problem, all this price stuff. Well, who the hell cares about it if in fact it's run by class relationships? Okay. Next one. Where do prices come from? I'll just simply state that in a market system, if you have to gain income in order to purchase goods, then prices get created as part of the mechanism in which you can do this. So prices come out of the necessity of the sense of giving valuation to goods and services that have to be bought in markets, which of course means that the other side, once you have prices, you create wage rates and profit markups. Those are the mechanisms by which enterprises and households can actually obtain monetized goods from the market. So what comes first? The prices and wage rates and profit markups come first. The answer is no. It's production of investment and consumption goods through markets which come first, and the prices, wage rates, and profit markups come as a response to it. Now, this enables us to go further. What do prices do? They actually help business enterprise and going concern, which we will come back to. We'll bother with the last one. But what can be shown is that if you raise wage rates in this model, let's say a uniform increase of 10% on all wage rates, what happens? Prices go up by nearly 10%, not entirely because of depreciation allowance there. So the point is that any increase in wage rates simply means an increase in prices. Increasing wage rates have no impact on the production of investment goods or consumption goods or whatever. So in fact, there can never be a wage-led growth. There can be production of consumption goods-led growth, but not a wage-led. Same way, if you increase profit markups, do you get any more profits? Well, if you keep the same amount of investment goods that you're producing the same, the answer is no. The point is that increasing markup doesn't generate profits either. Just a mention about inflation. Tom Tyler likes to talk about how most Canadian heterodox economists can't say anything about inflation. The only person who wants to say anything about inflation is a person who wants to believe in a price mechanism, who wants to believe in relative scarcity. Okay. That's who believes in inflation. Inflation has absolutely no role in the heterodox model. So for those of you who like Tom Pally, then perhaps you might want to also just become a straight-out neoclassical economist who think that the price mechanism is actually important. I find it difficult when people like to talk about inflation and prices, and they themselves know absolutely nothing about how prices are set and how these things work. In which, let's just say, compiling is one example. Okay. Well, we have any questions after this? Well, somebody's supposed to call me in, otherwise I'm going to keep here until 6:15, and then we can run and make a mad dash.
Those are the concerns.
Well, what is meant by microeconomics and economics of the economy? Well, I have this whole economy which I set out there. We actually had to set up various parts of how things work together, so to speak. Micro is dealing with these constituent parts below the level of the economy as a whole. So, you want to know how wages get set? Well, gee whiz, that's a kind of a micro issue. Just because it actually has an impact on the economy as a whole doesn't make it, well, it actually makes it a macro issue. But the point is that you start out with something much more theoretically concrete, so to speak, below the economy as a whole. That's what micro is. anybody and everybody can become both a micro and macro economy. So for me, when we talk about Heterodox microeconomics, it's not about micro versus macro, because I don't even want to use those terms anymore. Fortunately, we get trapped into these things, but I don't think those terms are relevant, except for those who don't know what's going on in that micro and macro. So when we talk about microeconomics, we're talking about going under the economy as a whole and looking at various sectors, various areas, and see how they actually work. And of course, this is really interesting. There's going to be a post-Keynesian conference in Kansas City. Will they actually have any discussion about how the pharmaceutical industry is controlling prices and the distribution of their drugs to third world countries in order to basically screw them over? The answer is no, because that's too micro. Also international trade, which post-Keynesian don't seem to take a lot to do. But the point is that they don't ask those questions. I can tell you right now, your problem with NHS is in part because you have these dominant pharmaceutical companies which are screwing NHS. But they're not interested in asking those questions because it's not this kind of aggregate macro. But when you do ask these questions, you're actually talking about the lives of individuals. Take it from me, is that unless, in the United States, unless you have very good health care to come down with a serious illness, you are screwed. Literally screwed. Fortunately, I have very good health care. My wife can be paid off bills for the next 10 years. But those are the kind of questions that require more micro orientation than a macro. Okay. That's just simply indicate that given all these core decisions that can be made, that when we talk about particular kinds of sector-specific analysis, they're all interdependent. For example, we have specific analysis, which is independent, market governance, enterprise, and trade union. Well, market governance, like I said, is about cartels, and trade, but also about employer associations who control the employer side of the market, and trade associations, trade unions control the worker side of the market. This is interdependency of two separate, well-established institutions and organizations which are emergent in themselves, and when they work together, they become an emergent whole as well. This is far below the level of the economy as a whole, but that's what we're dealing with. Another one would be, another point is that the specific analysis must be integrated, consistent with the model of the economy as a whole, which means that you can undertake specific analysis below the economy and assume that the state doesn't exist. Well, again, let's talk about how we want to regulate cartels. First thing they said, well, see, regulating cartels comes from Europe. So you're already figuring out how to deal with some kind of cement cartel in England, and we're having to invoke European law to deal with it. I don't know, this seems quite interdependent and between, have to be consistent with the fact that the economy as a whole must have the state in it because you need it to talk about it at the level that you want to deal with. It also must have classes, so your analysis must be classes and a range of other things. So the whole notion of the fallacy of competition does not exist in this framework. If it doesn't exist in this framework, then micro-macro split has no meaning. Jesper out there will give you all the ins and outs about the fallacy of composition, in as much as that he wrote about it extensively in a recent book that he's published. Methodology of macroeconomics, or macroeconomics and methodology, or something like that. Again, I simply indicate that the economy is interdependent. So there's no micro, no macro. Now, conclusion. First of all, the obvious one is that you develop, what are the things we should be doing? Should we be developing heterodox economic theory? Now, how we're trying to talk about why the micro foundation of macroeconomics in a neoclassical sense should be any concerns of ours. That's just simply a waste of time. I mean, you can do that when you retire. I mean, people used to say, well, you can get your thought when you retire. No, you do that now. You can do anything mainstream when you retire because it's not worth very much. It's for development of heterodox economic theory. So you need to develop heterodox theory, and you should just use one approach but integrate them. As anybody knows me, I'm not a fan of sectarian approaches within the heterodox world. We work things together. And just because you have to like something doesn't mean it actually is worth a damn. You have to be willing to give up stuff. If not, then you've faded from being a scientist into being an ideal one. If you can't admit that what you know may be wrong or irrelevant, then you really have no business in pursuing a scientific vocation. Well, moral of my story is that I actually don't say that I know an awful lot, which I think is really true, so I don't have to give up an awful lot. I have a lot of doubt and uncertainty in what I know. I just assume other people are going to work this stuff out after me. I mean, hell, I can't do it myself. We can do it with help from friends. Not only this generation, but future generations. Not a plain awful lot. We also should look for other theoretical possibilities beyond the usual heterodox approaches. This does not mean let's go to the mainstream. There might be something in Gandhi economics, I have no idea, which might be relevant. Or Islamic economics, I don't know. The point is you shouldn't simply reject them outright. They may actually come up with some useful comments. In fact, Islamic economics has a lot of social components to it about how to run supposedly an Islamic economy. The point is that you have to become a lot more open and pluralistic in what you would consider before you start making decisions about what's worthwhile or not. You can see I do 4 or 5 heterodox approaches, and that marks me out immediately as somebody who's very broad in this day and age. And that's not sufficient. I'm an old man. Younger people can be much more open and pluralistic and integrate things. Eventually you get to the point where some things will simply have to be discarded. We usually say that people think that King said everything and said it right, that there's nothing to be discarded. Hell, I've discarded everything with chapter 17 or something like that. There's not an awful lot with Keynes, other than effective demand and discussion about monetary theory. I know, it's terrible. Who cares? You want me to talk about Marx? I'm equal opportunist complainer here. Well, we'll do that over. But do you see any labor theory of value? I can do everything that Marx does without labor theory of value. Okay. Some specific theoretical topics. Concept of going concern needs to be developed. Labor and resources like socially constructed inputs need more development. Integrating ecology into the economy as a whole without bringing along scarcity and other mainstream concepts. Boy, I tell you, these ecological economists like to think they're really radical. They bring along scarcity. That makes them so mainstream that you shouldn't even bother talking to them. But they're good people. Try to convince them the error of their ways. And how ideology actually affects how agency is conducted. Just because mainstream economics may be wrong, that their ideology doesn't make people want to make decisions as if it's true. People who make decisions on things which have no bearing in the real world, they make decisions that enable them to carry out things, such as the Supreme Court decision over the fact that somehow religious notions is a good thing to have and can be used to conduct economic or social policy as in the United States. No need to go any further, but the point is that we have all kinds of things that people believe in non-real things to make decisions about how they actually conduct themselves in the real world. Okay. More important theoretical research. This is where I am. Developing heterodox theory in the context capital controversy so important? Because in fact, the capital controversy was a controversy which questioned the price mechanism. Why was the administered price controversy so important in the U.S., or the Marshall's controversy? It's because it questioned the price mechanism. If you don't question the price mechanism, the mainstream don't give a damn about what you do. You're doing stuff irrelevant. So all research should be directed in developing heterodox theory simultaneously with having an attack upon the price mechanism. I mean, the notion that, one point is not only deal with pricing, deal with wage rates, deal with interest rates. In the last one, heterodox production theory, dealing with relative scarcity. All of these question or attack the price mechanism. If you want to get noted, you do this. This is the most essential point. Attacking the price mechanism. Once you have destroyed the price mechanism, that's all we're destroyed. Let me add more nails to the coffin. Once you've done that, then you have refuted neoclassical mainstream theory completely. Now that should be enough for anybody who is actually an honest scientist, but that's not our opponents. What we have to realize is that theoretically dismissing them and having an alternative in its place is not sufficient. Well, it should be, but it's not. What you have to deal with is the way that the mainstream organizes and creates its existence and keeps it alive even though it's wrong. And that's what you also have to attack. Heterodox economists have been loath to do something like this. And this has led to its decline. Now, further discussion of this is for a different time, a different venue. So I can go on for another. I don't have to. But let's simply say categorically right now. And if you're going to survive as a heterodox department to produce heterodox doctoral students, which is what you have to do, none of this stuff about producing undergraduates, who the hell cares about them? They don't teach. They don't create the world which has to be created. You need to create doctoral programs, and you need to have departments which are clearly heterodox. Now, Bruce Cronin here has created such a department from scratch, really from scratch, so as an ongoing activity. These have to be maintained. Most heterodox economists say, oh, let's be pluralistic, let's bring in mainstream economists, and the first thing mainstream economists do is to run the heterodox. And I'll give you 15 or 20 different cases, certainly in the United States and elsewhere, that this is happening. So what you have to have a department which actually does not hire mainstream economists. This is not what people want to hear. This is how you're going to survive. How you're going to grow. You have to do that because the mainstream simply or literally intolerant. But again, this is a different story for another time and another place. But final point here is that microeconomists talking about heterodox economics as a whole, and hopefully what you've gotten from this, the fact that I cannot pinpoint at any point, at any place, where I stop being a microeconomist and somehow there's this macro step which I don't do. I don't see that division. I see myself going back and forth. The only difference between myself and from Jesper is that we just like to deal with different topics. We are not dealing with a different animal. We're not dealing with different things. We are dealing with the same thing, but we have to deal with different topics. As a result, we get along really great because we can talk about all kinds of stuff without somehow saying, well, I do micro, he does macro, mine's better than yours. We don't do that. We have a much more congenial intellectual conversation because we can do both. That's what I hope you got from this lecture. Thank you.
most of the transactions don't involve prices, like in the family, within the firm and within the state. What unit of analysis would you suggest?
Well, if you want to talk about what goes on inside the family, and you say that it's not part of any market system, and you say that it's not part of markets, prices, etc., well, then I suggest that you find a unit of analysis created by some other discipline which would actually help you talk about how the family works, or the household works. I can simply just go read the literature, okay? But once you get outside the framework which I've set up here, then there's lots of other stuff to be done out there. I'm an economist, this is what I deal with. We deal with others who would deal with it more seriously. And that's my answer. So I have to do an awful lot of work to figure out if I need to say anything about what goes inside the household. I do the work for the firm, and that's...
Household firm also.
Yeah. I do work with business enterprises. And they're saying that we talk about what's not in business enterprises, which has nothing to do, or very little to do, with markets. How cost accounting information gets constructed. Now, it's relevant for what happens in markets, but how that actually occurs is a kind of different proposition. Want to know how much time it takes to spend? Ask her how much time you've been spending figuring out how to learn what households do. About a decade? And she's still just starting. So the point is that that's my kind of answer.
Okay. Other questions?
Would you go as far as to state that there's no such a thing as a cost price?
And then what?
Would you go as far as to state that there's no such a thing as a cost price?
And the cost price?
Yes. Yes or no?
Okay. And I assume this is drawn from Marxian theory?
No.
Okay, no, I'm just trying to, because they use the term cost price in Marxian theory, so I'm just trying to, well, all prices, well, at least in wholesale, retail, manufacturing, etc., all prices are markup on cost. Is that what you're referring to? So prices are predicated.
Price mechanism. If you don't see something like that, I'm just asking you to clarify.
I'm not sure precisely what I'm supposed to clarify, but prices are set by, most prices, so we deal with financial sector, auction markets, things like that, are set at markup on cost. Does this have, so does the price have any connection to any kind of output that is in some kind of functional manner? The answer is no. There's no determinate relation between price and quantity that is specified in demand curve. So just because you set prices based on the markup on cost doesn't lead to any other proposition other than prices are designed to cover the cost of the business enterprise so they can remain going concern. That's a different proposition than a price-quantity relationship in which underlies the price.
So, I understand that all cost is predicated on production. Production is predicated on productive relationships, which itself is predicated on social relationships which determine those, which is grounded in some sort of reality, which would mean that it's all based within a certain historical time period. So it's your whole analysis is all time rather than like over time. So when times change, you need to basically change your whole setup.
No? Well, yes and no, depending on how much time you want to have. Are you referring to stability of coefficients?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
There's no stability of coefficients in this model. We can talk about, but the price model is actually based on a different mechanism which enables you to escape the issue about stability of coefficients. But you can win your price model or your production model without the necessary need of having stability of coefficients. Because for any given level of output, that is any given level of the surplus that is going to be produced, you have a certain amount of output. With a given certain amount of output, from let's say output, then what do you have? A certain set of inputs, right?
Right.
Do you need stability of production coefficients to deal with that? The answer is no, because scrap does it all the time. Is that what it means? But over time, you're talking about a much longer over time period.
Right, yeah.
you find enterprises making production decisions, which, by the way, is a very understudied component in certainly heterodox economics. How do enterprises actually make production decisions? So what I'm going to say is based on not very much knowledge because it's not very well studied. But certainly enough, for example, the manufacturing industry responds to demand as opposed to prices. If you can set up particular sectors to run differently. And I'm not going to deny that you could perhaps set up one which runs based on prices. But that's a particular kind of setup. I may not actually know very much about it to be able to fully answer your question. But in these kind of setups, where the price seems to have an overriding dominance, what you find is that the existence of the going enterprise that's in such a situation actually has no control over its capabilities of being going enterprise. So while you might have, this is kind of hypothetical, while you might actually have a setup where prices seem to drive things, we have it in commodity markets in the U.S. for U.S. farms. But the problem is that that actually doesn't ensure that the farm remains a going concern. So what happens is that the farmers then rate the market so that prices don't do that. They form cooperatives, for example. As a way to get around it. So you can have a setup where prices may actually drive activity in some sense, but since they are not conducive to the individual enterprise, to remain a going enterprise, the system will be changed to where they have control over those prices. That's how I would start to examine economics. I can't answer it. It's more to the economists than I know. But that's how I would do it, how I would approach that particular question.
Okay, I'm afraid because we're out of time. Fred's clearly provoked a lot of thinking here and a lot of questions for the future, and there'll be opportunities to see some of that at the next event. Now, as I've mentioned before, we have an unmovable time constraint here. There's a boarding, a set boarding period for the boat, for those that are coming on the boat cruise and the conference dinner. The boat arrives at Greenwich Pier at 6:30, it departs at 6:45. If you are there at 6:46, you will miss the boat. So, and this has happened in the past. So please aim to be there at 6:30. To get to the boat, you go into the large courtyard behind you, you walk to the river, and you keep on walking down to the river until you come across it up here. And the events team will be there to meet you. So, as Fred pointed out, that when in doubt, go to the river and turn left. Okay, so you've got 20 minutes. It would normally take you 5 to 10 minutes to get